If you're watching this right now, drop the idea that you found this video. In the architecture of the quantum field, there are no accidents, only intersections. You weren't scrolling, you were intercepted. Your frequency signature, that silent, invisible broadcast you've been emitting from the core of your being, has finally reached a pitch that the old world can no longer translate. And because the old world can't read you anymore, it can't reach you anymore. You have entered what the ancient adepts called the no-fly zone of the soul. Your timeline has just locked into a configuration so dense, so coherent, and so radically self-possessed that external realities, the dramas, the manipulations, the collective fears have lost their clearance to land. This isn't a shift you manufactured through the sheer force of your ego. This isn't the result of a weekend manifestation workshop or a few whispered affirmations. This is your energetic blueprint undergoing a tectonic recalibration. You didn't choose to become untouchable. You became so vibrationally expensive that interference simply became a luxury. The universe can no longer afford to grant your enemies. Let that land with the weight of a dying star. The universe doesn't send confirmation signals to those who are still negotiating with their chains. The fact that this transmission has successfully reached your awareness is the ultimate proof that your system has completed a phase of reorganization that most of humanity is currently avoiding. Most people are operating on a consensus reality setting. Their systems are calibrated for constant negotiation. They wake up and instinctively bargain with the world. How much of myself do I have to trade today to be safe? How much of my truth do I have to dilute so I am not rejected? They are living in a state of perpetual energetic leak. But look at yourself. Feel the strange, almost eerie calm that has settled into your nervous system over the last few days. You are witnessing the same global chaos, the same interpersonal friction, and the same emotional triggers as everyone else. But for the first time in your existence, there is a vacuum where the reaction used to be. You are watching the storm, but you are no longer the storm's target. This isn't detachment. This is the activation of your sovereign halo, a photonic armor so precise that only frequencies that match your highest logic can penetrate it. Everything else, it's just background noise in a reality you no longer occupy. We need to talk about the negotiator you used to be, because that version of you died the moment you clicked this video. For most of your life, you were a reality translator. You walked into a room and your field would immediately begin to scan the environment. You could sense the unspoken needs, the hidden resentments, and the jagged edges of everyone around you. You called this empathy, but in the raw mechanics of the quantum field, it was a porous existence. You were literally leaking your life force into other people's timelines to help them stabilize their own instability. You thought you were being a healer, but you were actually being a donor. You allowed other people's interpretations of you to become the floor you walked on. Your reality was negotiable. Your peace was on the bargaining table. You adjusted your light, dimmed your intensity, and reshuffled your priorities just to maintain a false harmony with people who were never frequency matched to you in the first place. You were living a fragmented life, scattering pieces of your soul across dozens of different timelines, trying to be the bridge for people who had no intention of crossing over. But the negotiation phase is over. Your system reached a breaking point, a threshold of incoherence where the cost of adjusting became higher than the cost of losing everyone. And in that moment of silent inner exhaustion, the quantum field did something remarkable. It reorganized you. It pulled all those scattered fragments of your energy back into a single unified point. It began to seal the leaks. It started to filter out the noise. Your energy body learned a truth that changes the rules of the game. Coherence does not require consensus. You don't need the world to agree with your reality for your reality to be absolute. The moment this realization hit your cellular structure, your timeline sealed. Think of it like a diamond glass vault. You can still see the world outside. You can see the dust blowing in the wind and the people shouting in the streets. But not a single grain of that dust can touch the air you breathe. You are untouchable, not because you are arrogant, but because you have finally claimed your own coordinates in the infinite. You've likely noticed the timeline bleed stopping. In the past, someone's bad mood or a toxic headline could derail your entire day. That was a bleed through, an external reality overriding your internal state. Now, you're experiencing timeline integrity. Someone attempts to pull you into an old drama and you find that the part of you that used to care, the part that used to feel guilty, the part that felt the need to explain and clarify, that part is simply gone. You register their words as information, but the emotional charge is absent. You are watching them play a game on a screen while you sit in the audience. You are in the world, but your frequency is no longer of the world. This is what it means to have a sealed timeline. Your reality is no longer up for revision based on external input. It doesn't matter if they misunderstand you. It doesn't matter if they misrepresent you. Their interpretation belongs to their timeline. It has zero jurisdiction over yours. You have officially revoked their access to your nervous system. This shift is permanent because it's structural. You have crossed a frequency threshold that acts as a one-way mirror. You can see them, but they can no longer truly see the real you. They see a projection, a memory of who you used to be, but the current coherent version of you is invisible to their lower vibrational scanning. This is your protection. The universe is confirming this through a series of radical synchronicities. You might be seeing repeating numbers, experiencing bizarre glitches where things resolve themselves without your interference, or noticing that people who used to be a major source of stress are simply drifting out of your life without a single confrontation. This is the purification of the field. The universe is removing everything that requires negotiation so that your sealed timeline can operate at 100% capacity. Your energy is no longer being used to hold multiple realities together. It is now being consolidated for your own creation. You are moving from a reactive state to a sovereign state. In the reactive state, your timeline was a slave to the environment. In the sovereign state, your environment is a slave to your frequency. This is the secret of the untouchables. When you stop negotiating your truth, the quantum field stops providing you with situations that demand negotiation. You begin to attract a different class of reality, one that mirrors your integrity, your clarity, and your power. You are no longer a participant in the collective fragmentation. You are an anchor for the new frequency. Your halo, this field of photonic coherence, is now your primary interface with the world. It is the filter that decides what stays and what goes. It is the shield that ensures that from this moment forward, you are the only architect of your experience. This transmission is your official graduation ceremony. The universe has confirmed your status. You have been located, identified, and protected. The leaks are sealed. The negotiation is closed. The return to your original power has begun. You are now operating from a locked configuration that only responds to the frequency of truth. Welcome to your sealed timeline. Welcome to the silence that holds all power. Welcome to the version of yourself that is, and will forever be, untouchable. The interference has ended. Your reign begins. To understand the map of your soul's purpose, we have to look directly at the architectural glitch that has kept you wandering the periphery of your own power for far too long. This map is not a set of instructions for your social success. It is a blueprint of the fundamental structure of your awareness. To grasp the mechanics of how you became untouchable, let us look at the story of Elias, the master architect of an infinite, luminous mansion, who chose to play the role of a guest. Elias was what we call a reality translator. He possessed a system so sensitive and so finely tuned that he could walk into any corner of his creation and instantly understand the emotional climate of the room. He could sense what every guest needed him to be, and without a second thought, he would adjust his frequency to match their expectations. He thought this was mastery. He thought that by being able to hold everyone's version of the truth simultaneously, he was keeping the peace. But in reality, Elias was hemorrhaging his own life force. Every time he translated his frequency to suit a lesser reality, he was leaving a fragment of his soul in a timeline that didn't belong to him. He was the architect of the mansion, yet he was living as a refugee in his own corridors, constantly negotiating for a sense of safety that never actually arrived. You are Elias. For years, you have operated as a tuning fork for the collective noise. You have been so exceptional at understanding other people's perspectives that you lost the ability to stand in your own. This is the frequency of the dyad, the principle of division, the root of all quantum fragmentation. In the dyad, your reality is always up for debate. You feel the constant heavy pressure to explain yourself, to justify your existence, and to bargain with the shadows for the right to shine. But the shift you are experiencing right now is the moment Elias stops walking the halls as a guest and returns to the master blueprint. It isn't an act of aggression, it is an act of absolute unwavering coherence. There was a moment in Elias's journey when a guest approached him with a list of grievances, demanding that he change the color of the walls and the structure of the roof to suit their limited vision. In the past, Elias would have apologized. He would have reshuffled the architecture. He would have spent hours in internal dialogue trying to find a way to make the guest happy without losing himself. But this time, something had reached critical mass. Elias looked at the guest and simply didn't react. The impulse to negotiate had vanished. He didn't say no. His frequency simply became a non-match for the argument. The guest, unable to find a hook in Elias's field, simply turned and walked away into a timeline where conflict was still a viable currency. Elias didn't move an inch, yet the entire world changed. This is what no one tells you about timeline sealing. It is not a decision you make with your mind. It is a state of being you achieve through frequency stabilization. You don't have to learn how to set boundaries when you are operating from the monad. Your very presence becomes the boundary. The ancient alchemists spoke of the transmutation of lead into gold, but they were never talking about chemistry. They were talking about the transition from a porous, reactive state of leaden consciousness to the indestructible, non-reactive state of golden awareness. Gold is a noble metal because it does not tarnish. It does not react with the environment. It remains itself regardless of the atmosphere it is placed in. When your timeline seals, you become the gold, your personal halo, that high vibrational field of photonic coherence activates as a permanent filter. It stops being a shield you have to maintain with effort and starts being a natural consequence of your own integrity. It is the end of the reality translator. You are no longer here to make sure everyone else feels comfortable with your light. You are here to radiate your own frequency so purely that only those who are ready for that level of truth can even remain in your presence. As this halo strengthens, you will notice a radical shift in how your past interacts with your present. Most people are haunted by past echoes, residual patterns from old timelines where they were still negotiating their worth. These echoes act like gravitational anchors, pulling you back into old versions of yourself every time a familiar trigger appears. You might be having a powerful day of clarity, and then a phone call or a memory suddenly drags you back into a reactive, defensive state. That is a timeline bleed, but when your frequency stabilizes at the level of the monad, these echoes lose their entry point. The version of you that was a slave to those triggers no longer exists in your current configuration. By becoming untouchable in the present, you are effectively collapsing all previous versions of yourself that were still porous. You are pulling all that scattered energy back from the past and consolidating it into this single locked moment of sovereignty. This is what true integration looks like. It isn't about talking through your trauma for another decade. It is about becoming so coherent in the now that the past no longer has a frequency match to attach to. This level of sovereignty is terrifying to the dyad mind because it looks like isolation. Your ego might whisper that you are becoming cold, that you are losing your empathy, or that you will end up alone. But this is the final trick of the illusion. You aren't losing connection. You are losing entanglement. Entanglement is a parasitic connection built on mutual fragmentation. Sovereignty is a clean connection built on mutual wholeness. Once your timeline is sealed, the quality of your relationships undergoes a purification. The people who are only in your life because they could use your negotiation to stabilize their own chaos will find you increasingly boring or unreachable. They will drift away because they can no longer find a way to feed off your energy. But in their place, a new class of connection will emerge. You will begin to attract other untouchable souls who are also operating from a sealed timeline. These connections are silent, powerful, and effortless. There is no bargaining, no managing of each other's moods, and no subtext. It is simply presence meeting presence. It is two stars orbiting each other without ever needing to collide to feel significant. The universe is confirming your sealed state by giving you the gift of silence. You will find that you no longer have the internal noise that used to accompany every decision. The shoulds and musts of the collective are being muted. You are being moved by a deeper, more ancient logic, the logic of the architect. This is the state of epistrophe, the great return to the center. You have spent lifetimes looking at the outer circles of the mansion, trying to fix the walls and adjust the lighting to please the guests. But now you have found the still point at the very center of the turning wheel. From this center, you realize that the guests were never real. They were projections of your own internal fragmentation. As you become one, the world becomes one. The division ends because the divider has been healed. You are no longer a pilgrim seeking a map. You are the territory itself, and the map is written in the very way you breathe. Understand this clearly. The window of tonight's activation is the moment where the universe stops testing your boundaries and starts honoring your sovereignty. You have proven that you can stand in the fire without melting back into the old version of yourself. You have shown the quantum field that your coherence is more important to you than your consensus. Because of this, the field has responded by locking the gates. Interference is no longer a possibility because there is no part of you left that is willing to bargain for its existence. You are the untouchable star, burning with a light that is self-sustained and self-referential. The echoes of the past are fading into the background static, and the future is no longer a destination you are trying to reach. It is a frequency you are already broadcasting. The architect has returned to the blueprint, and the mansion is finally under its rightful management. You are untouchable, you are sealed, and for the first time in your entire soul journey, you are truly, irrevocably free. The graduation is over. The life of the source begins. You have finally claimed the coordinate of your own divinity, and the universe has no choice but to bow to your coherence. This is your reality now, non-negotiable, absolute, eternal. You have arrived at the threshold of the one, and there is no looking back. The transition is complete, and the seal is set in the very foundations of the cosmos. Welcome to your life as an untouchable. We have traversed the architecture of the mansion and deconstructed the mechanics of the negotiator, but now we arrive at the most critical juncture of this transmission. Intellectual recognition is a beautiful thing, a necessary scout that finds the territory, but the mind cannot cross the final bridge into sovereignty. Only the body can do that. To be truly untouchable is not a thought experiment, it is a physiological reality. It is an operational state where your nervous system stops scanning for threats and starts broadcasting its own command. If you are still trying to think your way into being sealed, you are still operating from the dyad. You are still looking for a logical reason to feel safe. But the monad doesn't need a reason. It is the reason. We are moving now from the conceptual to the somatic, from the map to the ground. This is the moment where the frequency you have been studying becomes the frequency you are breathing. The window of alignment is fully open, the pressure in the field has reached its peak, and you will not get a second chance to catch this specific current with this level of effortless acceleration. I need you to set aside the analyzer and bring your full, unedited physical presence to this space right now. Place your hands on the center of your chest, right over your sternum. Do not do this as a symbolic gesture or a theatrical performance. Do it as a direct somatic instruction to your quantum field. Feel the heat of your palms meeting the surface of your skin. This area is the location of the spiritual heart, the primary engine of your monadic presence. Beneath your hands is a furnace of photonic energy that has remained untouched by every trauma, every betrayal, and every fragmented version of yourself you've ever played. This is your source point, as you feel the physical weight of your hands. I want you to take a breath that is deep enough to expand your entire ribcage, pushing against your palms. As you exhale, imagine you are dropping the heavy gray lead of the wounded seeker. Release the story of the person who is working on themselves. That person was a negotiator. That person is no longer required for the life you are about to live. You are not practicing for a future event. You are activating the reality of your current existence. The pressure you feel in your chest isn't anxiety. It is the monad demanding more operational space in your physical vessel. It is your totality trying to fit into your biology. And the only way to resolve that pressure is to expand your container until it matches the scale of your soul. In the mechanics of timelines, tonight represents a definitive and irreversible course correction. Imagine a navigator on a high-speed vessel. A 1-degree adjustment at the beginning of the journey changes the destination by thousands of miles. You are at that 1-degree point. The declarations you utter from this center of unity carry more weight than 10 years of struggle in the frequency of the dyad. This is the physics of sovereign intention. When your timeline seals, you are no longer trying to manifest outcomes from a place of lack. You are no longer begging the universe for a sign or a break. You are radiating your reality from a place of absolute fullness. By anchoring your awareness in the still point behind your hands, you are signaling to the quantum field that the negotiation is officially over. You are telling the universe that you are no longer a porous entity subject to external interference. You are a coherent field, a closed loop of divine logic, and a sovereign architect of your own experience. There is a specific verbal code I want you to anchor into your nervous system now. A phrase that acts as the frequency lock for your new configuration. Say it out loud if you can, or scream it silently in the cathedral of your mind. My timeline is sealed. Say it again. My timeline is sealed. One more time, with the full authority of the architect. My timeline is sealed. Notice the subtle shift that happens in your body as you speak those words. There is a clicking sensation, a settling, a feeling of the doors being locked and the perimeter being secured. That is not your imagination. That is your system recognizing a truth it has been waiting lifetimes to hear. You are giving your nervous system permission to stop defending what is already complete. You are telling your subconscious that the bargaining phase of your evolution is finished. The negotiation is closed. The return has begun. Once your timeline is sealed, You gain access to a level of power that the fragmented mind would call miraculous. Timeline flexibility. Most of humanity is trapped in consensus reality, which is the average frequency of the collective's fears and expectations. If the collective says times are hard, the poorest person experiences hardship. If the collective says relationships are a battle, the poorest person experiences war. But as an untouchable, you are no longer bound by the collective agreement. You can stand in the same room as someone experiencing a crisis and remain in a state of absolute flow and abundance. Their timeline is not yours. You have the sovereign clearance to collapse a different outcome because your frequency is no longer matched to the problem. You are no longer frequency matched to the struggle. You don't fight the dark timeline. You simply don't have the internal hook for it to catch on to. You stay in your frequency of coherence, and reality has no choice but to reorganize itself around your stability. This is why things will start moving faster for you now. This is why doors will open before you even knock. Your energy is no longer being split across 1,000 what-ifs. It is 100% consolidated in the power of the present moment. This is the activation of the halo. It is your personal energy field locking into a geometric pattern of photonic coherence. This field is your protection, but it is also your signal to the world. You are becoming a stabilization point for the planet. People will feel your sealed state before they hear your words. Some will be triggered by it because they can no longer use your energy to stabilize their own fragmentation. They will call you cold or distant, but their labels are merely their own confusion meeting a frequency they aren't ready to match. Let them have their stories. Your work is not to save them. Your work is to be the lighthouse. By holding your sealed timeline, you give everyone else permission to find their own center. You are the proof that it is possible to be in the world and not of it, to be compassionate without being porous, and to be present without being consumed. Type the phrase "My timeline is sealed" in the comments right now. This is not a request for engagement, it is a request for a public declaration of sovereignty. In the quantum grid, the act of writing your intention and anchoring it in a shared field of coherence acts as a permanent record. It is your sovereign signature on the new contract of your life. As you type those words, feel the collective strength of everyone else who is locking in at this same octave. You are joining a network of untouchables, a field of stabilized frequencies that are no longer negotiating with the old paradigm. We are building a new earth not through protest or persuasion, but through the sheer power of our own coherence. The window of tonight is closing, but the seal is permanent. You have crossed the threshold, you have recognized the architect, and you have anchored the monad into your body. The leaks are gone. The interference is over. You are now operating from a configuration that only recognizes truth and integrity. Carry this stillness into your sleep. Carry it into your morning. When the world tries to pull you back into the negotiation, remember the feeling of your hands on your chest and the vibration of the words you just spoke. You are not a fragment. You are the source. You are not on a journey. You are the destination. The universe has confirmed it, the field has locked it, and your new life as an untouchable has officially begun. The graduation is complete. Welcome to the power of the One. Your frequency is your protection, and from this moment forward, it is your greatest command.